If you are asked to find multiple entry points to solving the problem, how many pieces of paper can we predict would exist after making 22 cuts? Well, one way is just to do it simply by doubling the numbers. We can see, looking at your chart, when there's 0 cuts, you start with 1 and you double it, and you continue to count, such as 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, until you've made a total of 22 cuts. Another way is to hit Stat and Edit. Now, if you look back at the chart, we know L1 is like your X. It represents the number of cuts, and L2 is the number of pieces of paper. I'm going to put in 3 of the data points that we did on Monday. And now, if I look here, by turning on the plot, going second and then Y and turning it on, I can see that these points are appearing to make that J curve. And the more points I add to this, you will see that this J curve becomes more and more definite. So I predict that it is going to be exponential. I can hit Stat, Calculate, and go all the way down to number 10. This stands for Exponential Regression Model. Exponential Regression Model. I'm going to hit Enter all the way until it calculates it. So this says take the data points you have in L1 and the corresponding data points from L2 and put those together and calculate what would be the line that goes through these points. Remember, it's the average of the points sometimes when you're working with data from like a real life scenario. In this case, it can go through and it happens to be perfect. And here's my answer. 1 goes in front. Remember, that's your initial value. And 2 is the exponent. 1 goes in front and 2 is the exponent, just like you saw on the video that you watched earlier today. Okay, so you've got that information. It's another way for you to create this. Another way is plugging in the points and finding the exponential regression. I come up here and I plug it in. 1 times 2 to the x. So what are also alternatives to finding this? So if I don't know the answer and I hit Windows, I know that the x value, the number of cuts, it has to be 22. So this isn't far enough. And I have no idea how many y's. I just know that it keeps doubling every single time. So in my opinion, the easiest way is to go second table. This way I don't have to adjust the window and I can go all the way down to 22. Now, the disadvantage of this is we are only able to do this when the number we're trying to find is an integer. So I look over here and I'm like, oh no, what's the answer? Well, if you move it over the top, this is the exact answer. So my answer is 4,194,304 sheets of paper when 22 cuts was made. Now keep in mind, you have to have a ballpark idea of that. Again, what is that at? That is at 4 million for you to come up to Windows and go, okay, the number of cuts has to be 22, so I'm going to go a little bit past that. And the number of pieces of paper is nearly 5 million. Now when I graph this, we can see this J curve. And when I go second, trace, value, it asks for the x value. What x value do you want? I want 22. And it tells me the exact same y value. It's important to be able to articulate in words and on paper multiple ways to achieve this answer. You get to choose in the end which one makes sense to you or which is the quickest. But today I want you to be able to, again, explain the multiple ways in writing.